All aboard the famous XPT, the classic Aussie express train, although express is a generous term when you're doing Melbourne to Sydney in just under 12 hours. No Wi-Fi, no power outlets, and for about the same price as a flight, I'll be spending an entire day on a trip most people finish in under 90 minutes. So, is this the ultimate scenic escape, or just a painfully slow trip into digital darkness? Let's find out. Good morning folks, it's Chris here from the Roving Balys. I'm in Melbourne today, standing in front of Southern Cross train station. I flew in yesterday and I'm not in a rush home, so I thought I'd take the scenic route, catch the XPT Express train back to Sydney. It's between 11 and 12 hour trip, but hopefully we'll see some of the countryside and take it a bit slower. We're starting our day in Melbourne, Australia's second largest city, after flying down from Sydney yesterday on one of the world's busiest domestic air routes. Melbourne is often called Australia's cultural capital, famous for its arts, trams, historic laneways and food and coffee scene. Unfortunately, Lydia couldn't make it down for this trip, so today I'm flying solo. Unlike Melbourne's Flinders Street station, which serves only suburban trains, the XPT to Sydney departs from the far more modern Southern Cross station, the city's main hub for regional and interstate journeys. Our route today takes us through some of Victoria and New South Wales's most important agricultural regions, stopping at 16 stations along the way. The timetable says 11.5 hours, but let's be honest, XPT doesn't really stand for extremely punctual train, so let's see how we go. I haven't caught the train from Melbourne to Sydney or vice versa for over 30 years. I used to do it occasionally when I was back in my student days. It was much cheaper than catching a plane, so when you're a student you save where you can. XPT stands for Express Passenger Train, but it's not really express in European standards or compared to the Japanese Shinkansen. I think its maximum speed is about 150 kilometres an hour, 100 mile an hour, so it's not really a fast train as such. Luckily, I arrived a little early because the cut-off for checking in luggage is 30 minutes before departure. But if you miss it, no worries, you can always bring your luggage on board with you. The ticket gate to Platform 1 is right beside the luggage hall. My departure was 8:30 AM, and if you're not checking in any luggage, you really only need to arrive 10 or 15 minutes beforehand. None of this arrive 2 hours early airport nonsense. It's 20 past 8, so we've got 10 minutes until the train leaves. They haven't let anybody on yet. I think they're just doing a quick clean after the overnight train came down from Sydney before they let everybody on. There's 2 trains a day from Melbourne to Sydney, one overnight and one daytime journey. I've decided to do the daytime trip so I can see some of the countryside. It's all about the journey after all. For the train buffs out there, the XPT was originally based on Britain's famous Intercity 125 high-speed train and first rolled onto Australian tracks in 1982. That's 43 years ago. Back then, it proudly held the title of Australia's fastest train. It runs with 2 diesel-powered locomotives, one at each end, in a push-pull setup. Today's Melbourne to Sydney service has 5 carriages, a sleeper car that doubles as a day-sitter on daytime runs, 2 first-class carriages, one of which holds the buffet, and 2 economy cars. We'll tour them all a little later in the trip.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of your driver and the onboard crew, a warm welcome. This is the Sydney Daylight XPT service. Departing Melbourne, just 8 minutes late. Train is very late in from Sydney. We will keep you updated on the running of the train throughout the journey.
As we leave the city behind and trundle through Melbourne's northern suburbs, it's a good chance to take a closer look at the seats. The layout is 2 seats on either side of the aisle, with plenty of overhead space for smaller bags. The seats themselves are well padded and surprisingly comfortable. If you're lucky enough to have an empty spot next to you, the armrest lifts up for extra space. First class seats recline an impressive 40 degrees if you're after a snooze, and the seatbacks are very reminiscent of an airplane. A sturdy fold-down tray table, plus a pouch for your phone, book or snacks. There's plenty of legroom too, even for taller travellers, and a neat little footrest that flicks back when you're not using it. My first class ticket set me back $132, about $40 more than the economy ticket, but since I'd be parked here all day, I figured it was worth the splurge. For comparison, a Qantas flight would have only sent me back $153. By the time I'd settled in, we were already rolling into the outer Melbourne suburb of Broadmeadows, the first stop on the line, about half an hour out of Southern Cross. Only 15 more stops to go, so buckle up. It wasn't long before the suburban landscape gave way to rolling countryside, sunburned hobby farms and patches of scrub and bush. Soon we were gliding into Seymour, often called the gateway to the fertile Goulburn Valley. From Seymour to our next stop, Benalla, the train rolled through the western fringes of the valley, one of Victoria's richest food-producing regions, a patchwork of farmlands and grazing paddocks.
Seeing our train here at Benalla, please make sure you've got all your belongings, and we will be unlocking just one door here to the platform, and that door is the front door of car D. We'll have a staff member at that door to assist. On arrival into Benalla, the train's running 5 minutes behind schedule.
As we left Benalla behind, I figured it was the perfect time to stretch my legs. So let's take a little wander through the train and see what's on board, starting right at the back. The last carriage is the sleeper carriage, which on a daytime service like this works as a day sitter. There's no reclining and it costs a little more, but you do get peace and privacy. At night, of course, these compartments turn into proper bunks for the overnight trip. Each pair of compartments shares a toilet and a shower. Next up is Car B, the first class carriage where I was lucky enough to be sitting. There's a small bathroom at the end with the essentials, a toilet, sink, mirror, bin, and even a baby change table. As you step into the seating area, there's a decent amount of space for bags. Handy since first class passengers are allowed 2 large pieces of luggage each. At the front of the carriage, you'll find even more storage space. Then we move into the buffet carriage, which is half first class seating and half food counter. This one also has a large accessible bathroom at the end. The seating area includes dedicated floor space for luggage and wheelchairs. Moving forward, you'll hit the food counter, where you can grab snacks and hot pies, sandwiches and coffee, and a few alcoholic drinks. Don't expect MasterChef, but it does the job. And it's a great excuse to stretch your legs every few hours. Finally, at the front of the train, we have the 2 economy carriages. The layout is still 2x2 and the seats look almost identical to the first class, just a little less legroom and a shallower recline. Still, if you want to save yourself $40, it's hardly a big downgrade. And that's the full XPT tour. Now, let's grab that coffee. From Benalla, the scenery began to change once again. The flat farmland of the Goulburn Valley gave way to rolling hills, vineyards and grazing country. Before long, we were pulling into Wangaratta, the regional centre known as the gateway to the Victorian Alps, and famous both for its wine and its jazz. From here, the train pressed on toward the border, wide farmland and open pasture stretching out to the west, while the hills of the King Valley sat off to the east, mostly hidden from view. Then, almost without warning, we crossed the mighty Murray River and rolled into New South Wales.
We have managed to get the train back onto timetable. We are now running on time.
Albury is the main border stop on our journey. Before 1962, passengers had to change trains here because Victoria and New South Wales couldn't agree on the rail gauge. These days, of course, the gauges are standardised, so the XPT rolls straight on through. We pulled out of Albury with a fresh crew after the Sydney-based team took over operations. It wasn't long before they came through the carriage taking lunch orders. Beef, chicken or vegetarian. I went with the chicken pasta and was handed a little meal ticket, along with a promise that there'd be an announcement when the meals were ready to collect from the buffet carriage, about an hour later. As I waited, the train rolled through the heart of the Riverina, one of New South Wales's largest and most productive farming regions, with wheat fields, grazing paddocks and wide open skies stretching to the horizon. The importance of wheat is easy to spot thanks to the silos lining the tracks, ready to load the crop into goods trains bound for market. We made stops at small stations along the way in classic farming communities like Culcair, Henty and The Rock. Exactly 1 hour after placing my order, the announcement came. Report to the buffet car to pay for and collect your meal. Yes, it was a microwave dish, but I've had far worse. In fact, I'd rate it higher than most economy airplane meals, and the bread roll was surprisingly good. While I was eating, the train pulled into Wagga Wagga, the largest city in the Riverina, an important regional hub and a key milestone on the journey, sitting roughly halfway between Melbourne and Sydney. From here, it's all downhill. Well, figuratively anyway. From Wagga Wagga, it was a short run north to Junee, where I was able to step off the train and take in some fresh country air. Junee is a real railway town, once home to one of the largest railway workshops in the Southern Hemisphere, and still an important operations centre today. Even the station itself has that classic country railway charm, with its long platform and heritage buildings.
New South Wales TrainLink wishes to advise passengers at Junee Station. The train to Sydney is expected to arrive in approximately 10 minutes.
Well, it's here now. We're at Junee Station. It's the first chance we've had to get off the train and stretch the legs a little bit outside. It's about 20 minutes to 2, so it's been a while sitting down in the train. We're probably halfway, wouldn't that be right? But yeah, we're over halfway and it's been a relaxing journey so far, watching the countryside roll past. But it's nice to get out and get some fresh air. It's a beautiful day though. Back on board, we rolled north again through more farmland and past the familiar sight of towering grain silos, before reaching Cootamundra, famous in cricketing circles as the birthplace of Sir Donald Bradman.
It's another railway town at heart, sitting at the junction of the main line to Sydney and the branch that heads west to Griffith. After leaving Cootamundra, we also left the Riverina region behind. The wide flat farmland gradually gave way to rolling hills, and the paddocks became smaller with more trees dotting the countryside as we climbed further into the southern tablelands.
These XPT trains, they're pretty old now. They're over 40 years old. They don't have all the mod cons. In fact, they don't have Wi-Fi. They don't have power, they don't have USB ports, so to keep yourself entertained for 11 and a half hours, I would recommend bring a good book, or else bring a power bank so you can recharge your phone and devices. Other than that, you can sit back, relax, enjoy the view, or maybe have a snooze. There's plenty of people doing that.
We made a stop at the small country town of Harden, and then at Yass Junction, which really isn't a town at all. The main railway bypassed the township of Yass because of the steep hills, so a station was built a few kilometres out, where the line ran flatter. Beyond Yass Junction, the line keeps climbing, and the countryside takes on a more rugged feel. This is one of the windiest corridors in New South Wales, and the wind farms now line the ridgelines, their turbines slowly turning above the paddocks. Further north, the land begins to open up again as the train approaches Goulburn, one of the larger towns along the route.
Train will shortly arrive at Goulburn. Passengers wishing to leave at Goulburn, please prepare to do so. Goulburn, our next stop.
In the early days of rail, this was a key regional hub, and it remains an important stop for passengers and freight today. Goulburn also marks the start of the climb into the Southern Highlands, where the climate is cooler, the rainfall greater, and the scenery more lush. From here, the landscape becomes more undulating, with green rolling hills, small farms, and increasingly built-up villages. By the time we reached Moss Vale, we had climbed to almost 680 metres above sea level. The towns of the Southern Highlands are known for their gardens, tree-lined streets, and a kind of English village feel. But with the sun already low in the sky, we couldn't really enjoy the scenery. The final 2 hours of the journey were mostly in darkness, descending towards Sydney and making one last stop at the southwest Sydney suburb of Campbelltown. Without internet or any scenery to look at, this last stretch felt very long, and I must admit, I just wanted it over. Finally, we pulled into Sydney's historic Central Station, and the 12-hour adventure was complete.
Back in Sydney now. The train was over half an hour late, but doesn't really matter. We weren't there for the speed, we were there for more the journey. I actually really enjoyed it. I mean, the train is over 40 years old, and it was a little bit rattly and a little bit dated. But still, the food was good and tasty and the seats were comfortable. If it had Wi-Fi and somewhere to charge your devices, then it would have been perfect. If you want to have a relaxing trip and enjoy the scenery, maybe chat with your travel companions, read a book, have a sleep, or watch a movie on your device, then this is a great way of doing it if you've got the time. I think they're updating the train soon. They were due in 2023, but they haven't arrived yet. I think there's still some more delays, so it might be a little while yet. So you might still have a chance to jump on the XPT between Sydney and Melbourne if you want to. Thank you for joining me on this XPT train trip between Melbourne and Sydney. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and leave a comment and let me know if you'd like us to do more train journey videos. Until next time, it's bye for now.